Hello and welcome to this week's webinar of the week, where I'm looking at winning back 2 hours for accountants during coronavirus times. Since coronavirus started, everything has been shifted and turned on its head. And accountants are facing new challenges in terms of how they work, how they manage, how they interact with their clients, and how they interact with our customers. But for me, coronavirus has really just highlighted one of the challenges that is the most significant challenge, not just for accountants, but for anybody in business. And back last month, some accountants were asking me, they were saying, Des, you seem to cover an awful lot of ground every day. Perhaps you could do a session on, well, how to get time during coronavirus. And that's what I've done. I've taken 10 things that I personally have applied to create more time in coronavirus, and I want to share those with you. Now, this is not your normal webinar live stream, so where you sit. This is actually an active one. So the very first thing I want you to do is, wherever you're watching this, I want you to go down to the comments and I want you to download the materials for today. So for those of you who are pre-registered with us and in here on Zoom, you will get them down in the chat box. Download the supporting material, because there's a couple of exercises in here that I actually want you to do during this session. If you're watching in Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Jonathan has put the links in the commentary so you can download and work through with me, because I really want you to win back 2 hours. So there's one exercise we're going to do when you're going to track through, showing here 2 hours by the end of this 60 minutes, 2 hours a day. Okay, so where do we start? Well, I'm just going to share on screen here, and the slides is where we're going to start, and give a little bit of a background. So first of all, I want to welcome you all back here. I know a number of you are regular attendees of our free UK CPD series. So for those of you who signed up for the entire series, to welcome you back. And to those of you who are joining us for the first time, or for those of you who are watching us on a live stream for the first time, to welcome you also. So winning back 2 hours a day, what am I talking about here? Well, what I'm talking about, if I can get my slides to move on, it would obviously be much easier. So no, that's not going to work. I'll go old school here and do it this way. So what we're talking about here is what's your biggest challenge? So what is your biggest challenge? Is it your customers? Is it your team? Is it your systems? Is it your products or services? Is it your fees? Is it your profitability? Or is it your time? Well, when we dig down through all the challenges that accountants face, for me, time is the starting point. You see, if we only had a little bit more time, well, then we could possibly have better customers. And you see, if we only had a little bit more time and possibly had better customers, well, then possibly we could build a better team. And obviously having a better team is going to solve all problems. So better team, better customers. But if we just had a little bit of time to do that, well, then that'd work really well. And the next one is better systems. So if we had a better team, we could build better systems. And with a better team and better systems, we'd definitely be able to have better customers. But you see, then if we had a better team and better systems, we'd be able to deliver better services, which would definitely help us generate better customers, which would probably give us more time. And if we were delivering better services, we'd be able to charge better fees. And if we had better fees, we'd be able to build better systems, attract a better team, and attract better customers. And if we had better fees, well, then we'd be able to make better profits. And if we had all of that, that would give us more time. The starting point and the ending point of one of the biggest challenges that accountants practically face is more time. Now, obviously in this session today, I can't possibly go about solving that problem because it is a multifaceted challenge that we face. Today is about practical tips, practical things that you can do right away. And you see, here's the real problem. The real problem is that time is passing. The sands of time are always passing. We're 6 months into 2020. Coronavirus has changed the shape of 2020. But think about it. We're now nearly the midpoint, June 2020. How quick has the last year been? How quick has the last 2 years been? How quick have the last 3 years, the 4 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years been? It flies by. The sands of time are passing. And my question for you today is, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it in your business? What are you going to do about it in your firm? What are you going to do about it for yourself? And there's a cruel and harsh reality here, which some people don't necessarily like. And that cruel and harsh reality is what I call the accountability loop. And where really it's your choice. You can choose to recognize the problems. You can own the problems. You can forgive the circumstances that created the problems. You can self-examine. You can learn and take action. That's the virtuous cycle. Or alternatively, what you can do is you can choose to ignore the situation, to deny there's a problem, to blame others, or to hide. Of course, everybody would like to feel that they take the virtuous cycle when they make choices. But the reality is, if you don't have enough time, if you feel under pressure, if you feel stressed, maybe that you've got too many customers, maybe you've got too many non-ideal customers, maybe you don't have the right team, maybe you don't have the right tech setup, maybe it's not systemized and automated, maybe you're not pricing optimally, maybe you're not profitable. But the bottom line is, whether we like it or not, it's a choice. We've got to look and see, are you ignoring a problem here? Are you denying that there's a problem? Are you blaming other people for the problem? One thing that accountants are very, very good at is rationalizing things. Well, this is just the way it is. Well, this is because of this and because of this. Are you resisting change? Are you putting your head in your sand and hiding from it? At any point in time, if we find ourselves in the lower vicious cycle, we can flip up into the virtuous cycle, make a choice, and take control. Already, some of you will not like that comment, because it's easier to be able to put the blame over onto somebody else and deny that we are accountable. This is the accountability loop. No matter what you want to change, the first part is acknowledging the situation you're in, establishing what is your intention, and then making a choice whether you go the higher road or the lower road. Now, the reality is, no matter what choice you make, it's going to be a combination of both. You're not going to solve a problem straight away by just making choices. But be aware of your actions and your choices and how they impact and how they reflect on this. At a very basic level, this is about choices. And this is about you choosing to identify what is the priority that's going to get the best result for you. What is the 20% action that you can take right now that's going to get the 80% result? Or if you go a bit further, what's the 10% effort that's going to give you the 90% result? What's the 5% effort right now that's going to make a 95% impact? So I can see the numbers of you, and I can see the names of people who are online with me live on the Zoom. I can't necessarily see who's joining me on the live streams on the various channels. I can't see who's joining me on the recorded sessions. But I ask you now to make a choice and to come with me and do an exercise here, because this is ultimately, it is about priorities. Okay, so I'm just going to change my screen here, and I'm going to go in and look at one of the first handouts that we have in the downloads. So Jonathan, if you could put the link up there again, I think there's a couple of latecomers. If you could put a link up in the chat box on Zoom at the bottom of the page, and if you could put the links up on the various social media channels. So what I want you to look at right now is what I call the time creator exercise. So the time creator exercise, this sets out the 10 areas that I'm going to look at. And as we go through, so in the next 50 minutes, this sets out the 10 areas I'm going to go through. I want you to identify what's the minimum amount of time you could create using this strategy. Then I want you to identify what's the maximum amount of time that you can create using the strategy. I want you to think about what's possible. I want you to almost get out of your own way in terms of, okay, he's saying something here. Do I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? But just go with me on this. And some of the exercises you may be able to create more time. Some of the exercises you'll be able to create less time. My aim here is that I find a way to give you 2 hours. This time creator schedule is going to keep track as we go. If you haven't already downloaded, please download now. At the bottom here, go into the comment box, go into the chat box, download the exercises so that you can work along with me as we go through. Okay, so let's come back here to our slides. Okay, so it's about priorities to create more time. It's about priorities. And one of the big issues that people have is this whole concept of to-do lists and being snowed under by to-do lists. In reality, to-do lists, they consist of a whole lot of could-dos and some should-dos. The difference between a to-do list and a success list, and I got this from the book called The One Thing. And The One Thing, if you read books, this is a brilliant book to read. I highly recommend it. It's a very simple read. For me, and many of the people I've introduced to, it's a game changer. You take your to-do list and you turn it into a success list. We refine and filter it back. What are the things we should do? You see, ultimately what we're trying to get to is from a to-do list to a success list to the one thing. And this is the first tip for coronavirus times, to ask you, what is your one thing? What is the one thing that you can do such that by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And on the slide we have here, and you see we've got a series of dominoes getting progressively bigger. And here's the science. If you take one standard size playing domino and you put a domino beside it that's 50% bigger, and you put a domino beside that one that's 50% bigger than that one, and keep going on the 50% biggers, that you knock over that first standard size playing domino, it will knock over all the dominoes. The geometric progression. And you see, if you take that out and you extrapolate that out, if you start with the first domino is just 2 inches tall, by the 18th domino, you could knock over the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, maybe the Leaning Tower of Pisa is on its way over anyway, but by the 23rd domino, using this geometric progression, you could knock over the Eiffel Tower. You need to find that one thing that's going to get you the momentum. Now, if you're here with me on this webinar today, well, maybe this is the one thing that's going to get you the momentum to start the process. But my question for you now is, think about it. To create time, to create two hours a day is our target. to create 2 hours a day, what's the one thing that you could do such that by doing that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Ask yourself the focusing question. I remember when I first discovered this focusing question, I used to write it out on Post-it notes, and I used to stick it on my computer, and I used to stick it on my desk. I don't need to stick it anywhere now because it's so ingrained. But just look at this really simple question. It's so powerful. It links into the concept of the accountability loop and you making the choice. What's the one thing, not 10 things, not 20 things, not 30 things, what's just one thing? Just one thing I can do. So in other words, it's not dependent on anybody else out there. It's one thing I can do such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. If there was one thing that you were to eliminate, if there was one thing that you could start doing, if there was one thing that you could change, right now, don't think complex, think simple. Think simple, think a simple solution, simplify the game. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? I want you to write down what that one thing is. And then what I want you to do is, I want you to go to your time creator and think about that one thing you're going to do. What's the minimum amount of time it will create? What's the maximum amount of time it could possibly create for you? Okay, so that's the first thing. Every morning, every day, all the time, I ask myself, what's the one thing? I'm continually looking for the one thing. Sometimes I get it really right, and I do one thing that creates a catalog. But it's like that domino, like those dominoes. We're not looking to achieve everything today. We're looking to find the one thing. The one thing where we can gain momentum that will get the result. Okay, so taking stock. Where is your time going right now? Now, I know that accountants tend to keep timesheets, but so if you are an accountant who keeps timesheets, not what your timesheet says. Where is your time actually going? Not where you think it's going, but where is it actually going? What are you doing over and over and over again? Okay, so I want to go look at something else here. So this time I want to look at our inventory tracker. First of all, I'm going to look at a guide here. So our inventory tracker guide, this basically is giving you an example of some of the things that you might want to capture on this document, okay? But what I want you to do is, I want you to fill out this blank sheet here, and this inventory tracker, and I want you to fill out, where does your time go? And some people will use an inventory tracker like this. Other people will just keep track in their notebooks. Here's a prediction. A lot of people will not do this exercise. They will not do this exercise because it's too simplistic. Because it looks too easy. Yeah, fill out an inventory tracker. I know where all my time goes. No, I'm talking about for a period of at least 5 working days, but preferably 2 weeks, 10 working days, that you track where all your time goes. The accountants who've done this exercise in the past, the results that they have achieved is phenomenal. Because what the inventory tracker does is, the inventory tracker shows you, well, here's exactly where my time is going. And by going through the exercise of the inventory tracker, what you actually find and discover is, well, hold on here now. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this exercise? Why am I doing this activity? It's burning time. You will instantly identify doing this exercise where you are burning time, where you are wasting time. Do your inventory tracker, at least 5 days, preferably 10. Study and identify what are the activities that are not best use of your time, what are the activities you can delegate, what are the activities you can stop doing. this really simple exercise is a game changer. When you've done your inventory tracker, now capture it and capture the possible time. Okay, so do it right here, right now with me. Okay, so you're not going to do an inventory tracker, but go to your time creator exercise, the first worksheet, and based on an inventory tracker, put in a best estimate of, if you really studied your time, how much slack is there? What's the minimum amount of time you could save? What's the maximum amount of time you could save each day? By doing, stopping doing, changing, delegating. The next thing I want to talk to you about is multitasking. So it's funny when I see job applications and CVs, and I talk about it in interviews, and most candidates will talk about how good they are as multitaskers. How good they are as multitaskers. And you see, it's like we're taught that it's a benefit to be a multitasker. Now, the one thing that we all know that accountants is multitaskers. All accountants, you're all excellent at multitasking. You can do multiple things at the one time. You can keep multiple things going. And an accountant's day is often extremely busy, going from one thing to the next thing, finishing off that thing, doing this other thing. The phone rings, the email pops in. It's a fallacy. Multitasking is a fallacy. Having multitasking as a skill, it's not actually a skill. So you can juggle all the balls, right? And you see, when it comes to time, well, it's like, well, it's not my fault. I've got all these other things to do, and I've all these customers, and I've got, my team members just keep asking questions. My customers keep contacting me. Sure, what can I do? And now during coronavirus times, it's like, oh, well, my kids, my family, and I've got all these interruptions. Accountants are so good at multitasking, but your greatest strength can sometimes be your greatest weakness. Because you see, here's what happens when you multitask. When you multitask, you're doing something. Now, make a comment below in the chat box if any of this resonates with you. And so make a comment below in Q&A or in the chat box if this resonates at all. So you're working away and you're doing something and you're making progress, and next thing, there's a phone call. And so you switch direction, you reorient, you deal with the phone call. Now, even if the phone call goes nowhere, okay, the phone call is a distraction. And then what you got to do is you got to go back to what you're doing. You got to switch and reorient and then go and do the work. So the phone call has caused an interruption. Now, normally what happens with the likes of a phone call like that is it's not just a phone call. Now there's a distraction. There's a task coming out of that. You've got to switch, and then you forget where you were previously, and you've got to go back. Every time you pick up a task, you are losing time. You're losing momentum. It could be a phone call. It could be an email. It could be a knock at the door. It could be, just a quick question. Focused sprints on workflows yield better results. Focused sprints on workflows yield better results. Okay, so we've got to cut out the distractions. And how do we deal with this? What is the multitasking solution here? Well, the multitasking solution is put your phone in a drawer, in a press, the oven, the washing machine, the laundry basket, the shed. Particularly during coronavirus, mobiles became more. And adjust your voicemail and stop this ringing. Even now, as we're back in offices, stop the phone on your desk ringing. Emails, emails, they're like a cognitive slot machine. Every email, and it draws us in and sucks us in. Just put it down. It's going to be okay. Set up an autoresponder and say that, look, I'm going to respond to my emails between 12 and 1, or I'm going to respond to my emails that, that I'm out of it. So set it up. I'm getting emails. Your message is really important to me. I'm going to deal with it. Just don't expect an immediate response. Now, and one of the things, so then schedule times and actually return the emails, respond to the emails. But the coronavirus cover, and I've noticed this as coronavirus begins to become the new normal, and as people begin, the world begins to open back up, particularly Ireland and the UK, it's kind of we're back to normal. But during the peak of coronavirus, people were kinder. Use coronavirus as an opportunity to change how you do things. Now, this just isn't in relation to email or multitasking. This is in relation to everything. And I had a conversation with somebody this morning who is really thriving on working from home. And part of the 5-year plan was to have location freedom. And they're talking about going back into the office. And I'm saying, no, use coronavirus as a justification for not doing things the way you used to do them before. With coronavirus, people are much more open to change. Use the cover of coronavirus to change this email addiction and this compulsion to respond to email the second it lands. Okay, so what's the next one that we're going to look at? Non-negotiables. This is really, really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you just say no to? I'm just not accepting that anymore. Don't be reserved about this. Don't be polite about this. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? And what are your non-negotiables? What are you going to do? What are you not going to do? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that's it? Enough is enough for you in relation to your team. Some of the behaviors or habits or processes that just don't work, they're non-negotiable. Your customers, those customers that don't make appointments, those customers that do drop-ins, those customers that won't do what they're told or asked to do, those customers that always have problems. No, this is how we do it here. Either you do it this way, or perhaps the time has come for you to go somewhere else. But then we stand up and say no. And you see, again, the coronavirus focus has allowed people to do a reset, has allowed people to take stock. Don't lose the opportunity. Life is short. You matter. What do you need to reject right now? What do you need to reject right now? Okay, so go back now to our time creator. We've gone through four areas. Document the minimum number of minutes you can save. So first of all, we had the one thing. Then we had taking stock using the inventory tracker. Then we had saying no to multitasking and getting focused on activities and tasks and see them out to completion, removing interruptions. Then we have non-negotiables. If you were to identify one or two non-negotiables, how much time could you create in a day? Every day. Okay, diary zoning. Now, there's a couple of levels of diary zoning. And diary zoning, I'm going to go through basic levels, and then I'm going to go through what I call extreme diary zoning. And then I'm going to look at diary zoning in Corona times, which is kind of a match between the two. Okay, so diary zoning, and this is the solution to the one thing. Because what diary zoning gets you to do is focus on the thing that's going to have the biggest impact. This is also the solution to multitasking, because if we do diary zoning, the whole idea is that we have focused periods of time and there's no interruption. This is the solution to multitasking. This is about taking control. And what diary zoning really is about is, it's about having periods that are sprints and of intense focus. rather than just a jumble of a whole lot of things to do where one blends into. Did you ever get to the end of the day and you look back and you go, where did that day go? Like where did it actually go? I know I've been busy all day. It's not that I haven't been productive. I've been working hard, but what did I actually achieve? Diary zoning is how you get off the treadmill. It's how you get off the treadmill. Now, what am I talking about with diary zoning? So the basic zone day might look like something like this. So the first 10 minutes of the day, you plan your day. Then you spend 20 minutes responding to emails. When you finish responding to the emails, you go off and you do this period of focused work, no interruptions, focused, productive work. Do you know what kills me sometimes? What really kills me sometimes when I talk to accountants and they say to me that Saturday is their most effective day of the week because they go into the office for a few hours on Saturday to get work done. Because you know what happens on Saturdays? There's no emails, there's no phone calls, there's no interruptions. Why wait on Saturday? Why not have a focused, productive time every single day? So you do your 2.5 hour focused, productive work. Then you go and you might respond to more emails. You might return phone calls. You have your lunch, rest and rejuvenation. This is where like breaks are as important as the work. You come back after lunch and you do more focused work. Then you do your team interaction and meetings. You return your phone calls. You respond to emails. So one of the things for me is that, you know, if I've got really heavy concentration work, I can interact with people and talk to people all day long. But I will get my heavy focus work done in the morning because when I get to the evenings, I'm better off in human interaction that time of the day. Now, during coronavirus times, your coronavirus day might look something like this. So yeah, the schools are back, but you get the picture here. Did you get up, you plan your day, you focus on your own business. Maybe then you get into breakfast and homeschooling. Then you respond to emails. Then you return the phone calls. Then you do the team huddles. Focus, productive work, put the dinner on, focus, productive work. So the idea here is break down your day. Basic diary zoning is about breaking down your day into chunks of specific focused activities. And what I actually do is I have a timer on my phone. I have a timer on the computer. At one stage, I have an alarm clock or a countdown clock. And I have a countdown clock here. So this is my digital countdown clock. And I would literally race against the clock. Race against the clock. Okay, I'm in emails now. Boom, let's hit this for 30 minutes. I'm doing focused work. Sole focus, email off, phone off. Now, extreme diary zoning, this is a concept that I learned from Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. If you want to take diary zoning to a higher level, this is where you want to go. Basic diary zoning is where we break down the days. Extreme diary zoning is where we have day-long focuses, a focus on productivity, a focus on preparation, a focus on rejuvenation. So this is where you would literally set aside, okay, well, what are my free days and what are my focus days? So for example, what I see a lot of accountants doing is that they might go, okay, well, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday are focus days where I do chargeable work, I do team building stuff. The buffer days, this is where I do the management and I do the client meetings, but they literally map out the days of the week. Now, you could take a combination of basic diary zoning, extreme diary zoning, and you could do what I call diary zoning sprints. So this is where you zone out your entire day and you have a 30-minute sprint. So you do 25 minutes of furious focus where you're like, boom, 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 you're working, you're boom. And then you have 5 minutes of rest and refocus. And then you go back into another 25 minutes of furious focus with a 5 minutes rest and refocus. They're all variations of the same concept. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go back here and to go back to this sheet, the time creator, we've covered off now on the one thing. We've talked about taking stock, interruptions in the power of focus, non-negotiables, diary zoning. So what's the minimum amount of minutes that you could generate or create if you implemented those first 5 concepts? What's the maximum amount of minutes, and what is your target? You see, what I'd encourage you to do is with this exercise that you'll fill in, and you'll fill in here today. Well, this is what my focus is. This is what I think I can achieve, and that you will use this sheet on a daily basis. Okay, what's my target for today, and what did I actually achieve? And here's the thing: I said about 2 hours a day. Okay. I have some accountants who, particularly our Profit Pro Thrive members, who I work with on an ongoing basis in building better businesses. But one of the key components that I tackle with them is this whole area of personal effectiveness and creating time. Rome isn't built in a day. I said to you 2 hours. There's strategies and tactics here that can help you save 2 hours. But maybe what you're going to do today, or maybe what you're going to do tomorrow, is to just save 10 minutes. To just save 10 minutes. And maybe next week then you'll save 15 minutes, and then it'll be 20 minutes a day. And you see, this is the domino effect. We don't have to knock over the big domino. The big domino is too hard to push it over. Could you push over the Eiffel Tower? No, you couldn't. But if you set up 23 dominoes using a geometric progression and gain momentum, you knock over that first domino. 23 dominoes later, you're going to knock over the Eiffel Tower. So, oh yeah, so 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. One of the things that myself and my wife have done, and it was actually Caroline who said it back early in coronavirus, because we've got 3 young kids here at home, and we're operating from our playroom. And she was operating initially from the kitchen, and then she eventually moved up to a spare bedroom. And Caroline was saying we're under a lot of pressure here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop watching television in the evening. I'm going to go to bed an hour earlier and get up an hour earlier. And that's what she did. Get up at 5 o'clock. We have a number of accountants who have done this with us during coronavirus, where they have literally started getting up at 5 o'clock. Now, look at your own rhythms and your own natural patterns. For some accountants, they don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They don't even know 5 o'clock in the morning exists. But for some, they do their day and they work late. You see, this is the beauty of coronavirus. This whole concept of 9 to 5 is potentially broken. You don't have to go back to that. There is no more 9 to 5. Work whatever way that works for you, and work whatever times work for you. The energy equation. Okay, again, if you're into reading books, there's a book you should read, and the book is called Unformed. It is a book written by, I'm just looking over here to see, do I have it? I do. I keep my favorite books close to hand. This book, Unformed, by Jim Loehr and Tony Schwartz. This is about energy. I cover a lot of ground and I do a lot of things. And some days are exponentially better than others. But there's something that I started looking at. I'd say I got that book Unformed. It used to be called The Power of Full Engagement, and they updated it and called it Unformed. I'd say it could be 3-4 years since I read that book. Physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, and purpose energy. So they're the 4 basic types of energy. So physical energy, this is, exercise, nutrition, sleep. Mental energy, Mental energy, this is what we're talking about, focus. This is about minimizing stress. It's about sleep too. And emotional energy, massively intangible, but one of the biggest draws of energy. And I've had a number of one-to-one calls with our Profit Pro Thrive members in the last 2 weeks. And this emotional energy thing keeps coming up and up and up. Where there's a team member, there is a customer, possibly a family member who is just draining the life out of you. This isn't about time. This is about energy. Yeah, we can all come to do 8 hours work today, but the people who have the higher energy, physical, mental, emotional, and purpose energy, they're going to blow it out of the water. It's not about traditional time management. It's not even about priorities in the one thing. This intangible energy equation is a game changer. Look at your physical energy. What are you doing? I work every day on physical, mental, and emotional energy. I sit down in the mornings. I do my breathing exercises. I do 15 minutes. I started off last year doing 15 minutes of Wim Hof breathing. Now I'm up to it. This morning I did an hour of it. It gives me the energy. If we combine having the energy with the focus of what's the one thing, dropping the multitasking, dropping the disruptions, saying no to the non-negotiables. And the non-negotiables here link into the purpose energy. What are you doing? As an accountant, what are you doing? Does your current role, does your current business, does it inspire and motivate you or not? If it's not inspiring and motivating you, it's not aligned with your purpose energy. And we need to either find a way to tap into our purpose. And you see, a lot of people, some accountants, their purpose actually is doing accounts, but other people, their purpose lies outside the business. So the business is a vehicle to help them serve their purpose. If you're not inspired and motivated by what you're doing, if you're lacking this cornerstone of purpose energy, you're not going to be one of those people. You see, we all have 1,440 minutes a day. We all have 168 hours in a week. How do some people achieve exponentially more than others? Well, it's the first 5 things we looked at, but it is also unquestionably down to energy creation and energy deployment. Business strategy. What are you trying to achieve in your business? How are you going about achieving it in your business? So we can take all of the techniques and all of the tactics and everything, the first 6 that I've covered. But if we're going in the wrong direction, it's irrelevant. What is your strategy? What is your plan here? What is your time vision, I would call it? What is your time vision? You see, if you were to turn 2020 into your best year ever, what is the result that will give you? What's the result that will give you? And what are the oppositions, the obstacles, the challenges? And what are your transformation strategies to make that work? Where should your time be invested? Where should you focus your attention? And ultimately, what are you going to achieve? It's beyond the scope of today's session, because when it comes to strategy, like we've created this 6-step success path for accountants. That's what we do in our Profit Pro programs. And we have our entry-level program, the Accountant's Growth Formula, and we have our higher-level program for people who really want to get shit done, called Profit Pro Thrive. What's the plan? You see, so many people just kind of, they work and they operate, they strategize in their head, but they don't have a clear destination. They haven't defined their trajectory. So it's like a rudderless ship. Pick a plan, set a strategy. Okay, who hunting? Oh, actually, sorry. Before we go any further, in terms of strategy, how do you, so there's our time creator. So keep tracking through on that. And we've looked at our inventory tracker. But just in terms of what I call a strategy implementer, let's look at this for a second. One of the big problems with strategy is, so what is your strategic objectives for the current year? Okay, so what are your outcomes? And ideally, and a lot of people disagree with this, but ideally what I would suggest you would do is not only you have a strategy for the year, but you would clarify and document what is over 3 years, what's your one thing? What's the one thing that you can do such that by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing, if we were to have a conversation 3 years from now and you were to look back, what needs to have happened personally and professionally for you to be able to say that those 3 years were a success? What's your 5-year one thing? What's your 10-year one thing? Now, sometimes people say to me, Des, I don't know what's going to happen next week. Who could have predicted coronavirus? Nobody could have predicted coronavirus. And nobody, even when coronavirus was coming, they knew about coronavirus in January. Nobody could have expected it to go the way it did. This is your map. What is your 3-year one thing? What is your 3-year one? What? Close your eyes and have a vision of what 3 years could look like. 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. The reality is most people overestimate what they can achieve in 12 months and totally underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. In 10 years, literally anything is possible. Do you remember the accountability loop? It's down to you. You choose. So what's our 1 year, our 3 year, our 5 year, and our 10 year? What's the one thing you can do this year that by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And you see, you take this long-term vision and you break it down into the next quarter. And basically what we do is 100-day sprints. The next 3 months, the next 100 days, what are the projects we're going to focus on in the next 100 days that are going to deliver the one thing? Who are the key people who are going to help me deliver the projects? It's not all about you, and we'll come back to that in a second, because this is a total game changer. What are your first...
You just don't have that on screen at the minute?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My sincere apologies, everybody. For some reason, I didn't get it to share on screen first time around. So this is the strategy implementer. Here's where I was talking about the 1 year objectives, the 3 year, the 5 year, the 10 year objectives. Then I'm asking you the question here, what's the one thing that if you did it in 2020, you've got 6 months. If there was just one thing you could do this year, what would it be? And you see, this is where business strategy has an impact in terms of time. What do you need to look at in the next quarter? What's the 100-day sprint from the 1st of July up to the 30th of September? What are the projects? Who are the people that you need? And then you look here on a monthly basis. What's going to happen in the month of July? What's going to happen in the month of July? Well, here's the one thing that we're going to do in the month of July. You look at it on a monthly basis, and then you translate it into a here and now, where on a weekly basis, you look at it and you say, what is next? What is the one thing? What is the purpose? What am I trying to achieve here? This is how you go from big picture strategy into things that you can do today that will focus on, that will get the result that you're looking for. Let's take a look here at our next area, which is who hunting. This is also a concept that I picked up from Dan Sullivan in Strategic Coach. And it's the most impactful thing that you can do. If you have a strategy, like we're talking there about business strategy, what's hard about business strategy? So whether you're a multi-partner firm or whether you're a sole practitioner firm, and whether you've got a big team, a small team, or no team, when it comes to implementing strategy, when it comes to implementing a plan, taking action and changing a trajectory, when we ask ourselves, how am I going to do that? It immediately takes the energy out of the process. How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? What if we change that question? Instead of saying, how am I going to do it? We ask the question, who? Who can help me do that? Who can help me get this result? Who is the one person such that by engaging them will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Who is the one person? You're the who to so many of your clients. They engage you to solve a problem because they don't want to do it for themselves. The truly successful business owners, the business doesn't depend on them because they recruit the who's to get the result. You can have part-time who's, you can have full-time who's, you can have internal who's. So internal who's that are engaged directly by you to work in your business, and external who's. To all of our Profit Pro members, I'm an external who. I'm not working in their business, but I'm a who that's helping them get a result. I'm a who's helping them create a bigger strategy. You see, the how feeds procrastination because the how is a load that you have to take on. Who do you want to be in your business? How do you want your business to be? But the really important question is, who do you need to get? Think back to your inventory tracker for a minute. What were the things that were on your inventory tracker that were not the best use of your time? What were the things that were on your inventory tracker that not only do you not like doing them, you hate doing them? What were the things on your inventory tracker that when you think about what you do on a day-to-day basis, just it doesn't make sense for you to do them? Find a who to take those off. Blend step 8 with step 2 and identify the who's to get you in the position doing the best work that you should be doing. Who hunting is it's a critical part. If you truly want to have a business, if you truly want to grow a business, if you truly want to experience freedom, if you want to have more time, start who hunting. Step 9, 1% habits. You're always looking for the 1% that's going to get the 99% result. But this is about habits. And this is about creating habits that are going to get you the result. So, for example, if we look at the distractions and disruptions, the accountant who puts their phone in the drawer, the accountant who has the habit of turning off their email, the accountant who has the habit of not multitasking, the accountant who has the habit of saying no. That's a non-negotiable. The accountant who has developed the habit of diary zoning, that they don't just go in and jump into their day's work, that they sit down, they plan their day, they do focused, productive work, they respond to emails, return phone calls. They're all habits. Everything we're talking about here is a habit. The first time you do it, it's hard. And you've got bad habits and you've got to replace them with good habits. You see, the beauty during coronavirus is some of the bad habits have been temporarily suspended because circumstances are different. But now as everybody goes back into the new normal, choose what old habits do you want to leave behind and what new habits do you want to install. You see, everybody has similar goals. Everybody wants to achieve things, but achievement is only a point of momentary change. When you reach that achievement, it's about the journey versus the result. Build the 1% habits. Have process goals. Habits that you build that help you get the result that you're really looking for. Have a strategy, plan, take action and implement, but learn from your mistakes. Build habits, build routines and rituals into your day so it's automatic thinking. A significant amount of what you do already is habit. It's just habit that you may not have consciously created. Create conscious habits that are going to get you the result that you really want. That's what we call our change loop. 1% success habits. Here's a challenge for you. 1% success habits. Do you know what 14 minutes, 24 seconds is? 14 minutes and 24 seconds is 1% of a day, because there's 1,440 minutes in a day. This is 1%. Could you do something today? Could you do something today for 40 minutes and 24 seconds? Could you create a new habit? Could you start the process? Don't buy into all this rubbish they tell you about 21 days to create a habit or 28 days. That's get rich quick scheme stuff. It takes at least 66 days to create a habit. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy. But the habits I started last year, guess what? Now they're habits. All it takes, 1% habits, 14 minutes, 24 seconds. You do it daily. You make a commitment. This is something that you do when no one else is watching. 1% habits. Here's the 10th tip to 2 hours a day. I hope you've been filling out. The time creator exercise as you went. Everything that we've covered up to this point in time is irrelevant if you don't commit. My kids, I could bring my kids in 7, 8, and 9, and I could ask them, what is the only failure in life? And their answer would be, the only failure in life is the failure to try. There is no try. There is only do or not do. Yoda. Quite simply, now is your time. You just need to say no. You just need to say no. Commit. We've got 2 minutes left in this webinar. So whether you're still here with me live or whether you're watching the recording, commit. 2 hours a day is more than possible. Some of our Profit Pro members, some of our existing Profit Pro members, they literally took this, went away and implemented. And they came up with 2 hours a day. Johnny started getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, instantly 2 hours. What are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing when looking at Netflix for a couple of hours in the evening? What purpose is it serving? Go to bed a bit earlier, get up a bit earlier. There's 2 hours. If you really want to do it, that's the answer to everything. But whatever you want, you need to commit. Whatever you want to do here, you need to commit. Just say no. Just say no. Just say no. Say yes to you and say no to everything that's not working. Start by creating 14 minutes and 24 seconds a day and build it and grow from there. I sincerely hope that you have got some valuable insights, ideas in today's session. The power of compounding, little steps, consistent progress, taking action, non-negotiables, saying no. Find the time to make the change, because if you think about it at the very start, if we had more time, we could have better customers. If we had better customers, we could have a better team. If we had a better team, we could have better systems. If we had better systems, we could have better services. If we had better services, we could charge better fees. If we had better fees, we could be more profitable. And if we could be more profitable, we could all have more time. So thank you very much for all those who have joined me here on the live session, and whether you're with us on Zoom or whether you're on the live platforms, thank you very much for your time today. And for those of you who are watching the recordings, just to thank you for your time as well. And make sure and do the exercises, the help sheets that go with this session, and we'll bring this to life for you. Yes, all of these webinars are free every week. They're free every week for the months of May and June. We've been doing one a week. We're now going to gradually move up to 2 webinars a week, and various topics: technical CPD, auditing, financial reporting, company law, tax, insolvency, HR, GDPR, and then general practice management sessions like this. So if you have friends or colleagues, just send them the link, and Jonathan will put a link up here in the chat box, and send them a copy, or send them the email you get to register here with us. Please do invite your friends, your colleagues, anybody that would benefit. Thanks for joining me here today. Until I see you again,